pleasure to welcome you to the TICAD8 Business Forum, Day 1. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. It's time to start the event. My name is Katu. I am the MC for today and tomorrow. We are delighted to have so many participants here today from Japan, Tunisia, and various other countries in Africa, including business peoples and government officials. We look forward to a broad-ranging, constructive, and thoughtful discussion on the strengthening and deepening of the business partnership relation between Japan and Africa. I will shortly be joined by Mr. Yoshimasa Hayashi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan, His Excellency Mr. Kais Said, President of the Republic of Tunisia, and His Excellency Mr. Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal, and Mr. Nobuhiko Sasaki, Chairman and CEO of Japan External Trade Organization. Please wait for a few moments for them to arrive. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask you to stand and welcome our distinguished speakers with a round of applause. Thank you for welcoming, as it should, our speakers. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall start the opening session. First, I'm delighted to introduce Mr. Nobuhiko Sasaki, Chairman and CEO of Japan External Trade Organization, for some welcome remarks. Mr. Sasaki, welcome.
I'm Sasaki of JETRO and very pleased that we have managed to gather physically here in Tunisia today for this business forum. In Japan-Africa relations, TICAD is truly the only opportunity of getting together for this high-level business leaders. Like others, I spent a whole day from Japan to come here, Tunis. It feels wonderful, indeed, to be able to talk while looking at your real faces. While the world's population is on the verge of decline, the African continent continues to grow its population. In 2050, according to a forecast, it should exceed 2.5 billion, according to one accounting for 1/4 of global population, precisely an era that can be called the age of Africa is coming. Population increase, however, does not necessarily create growth and stability. Lack of infrastructure and food, youth unemployment, and many other challenges must be addressed to attain sustainable growth. As the world becomes increasingly Africanized, these issues have a global impact. We can no longer regard them as challenges unique to Africa. What kind of contributions can Japan make to Africa through business, after all? Since independence of African countries, Japanese companies in various ways contributed to Africa's growth. In Nigeria, right after its independence, Japanese companies have started to contribute to the development of key infrastructure such as power plants and oil refineries. JETRO opened its Nigerian office in 1955. In South Africa, even today, the manufacturing industry is the largest employer. Japan and Germany built up this industry from the scratch. In Kenya, with its scarce resources, promotion of geothermal power generation has been a major contribution in energy development. Japanese companies have supported Africa's growth by earnestly working on technology transfer and human resource development Africa requires in various regions, and now young entrepreneurs from Japan and Africa cooperate actively on solution of social issues. There is no doubt that Japan and Africa have been and will be important partners each other. There is an Arabic proverb that says, One hand cannot clap. Yado wa hido la tashtek. For coming age of Africa, let us join and clap hands resoundingly. By wishing this business forum will be a good opportunity for both regions of Japan and Africa as partners to grow together, to work hand in hand, I conclude my speech. Thank you very much for listening.
Mr. Sasaki, thank you very much. We will now have the opening address from Mr. Fumio Kishida, the Prime Minister of Japan. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Kishida is not able to attend in person, but he has recorded this message. Please run the video.
I am Kishida Fumio, the Prime Minister of Japan. Welcome to TICAD. It is my great pleasure that we have the participation of business leaders from both Japan and Africa today as we convene this business forum. Unfortunately, I am not able to attend the forum myself, but I imagine that the floor is filled with enthusiasm. This morning, I kicked off discussions at TICAD together with President Said and President Sall. Over these next 2 days, we will discuss how to inspire enthusiasm for further investment towards Africa. I believe it is precisely the participants in this forum who serve as bridges between Japan and Africa. I hope that all the participants in this forum will strongly promote Japan-Africa businesses by investing in goods and services, human resources, and business ideas. Japanese companies have developed human resources, transferred technologies to Africa, and worked hand in hand with local communities, winning trust accordingly from Africa for a long time. Recently, more and more Japanese entrepreneurs seeking new frontiers are trying out their new business ideas in Africa, which is sustained by its younger generations. Japan and Africa are partners who grow together and who also work together to tackle the various social challenges faced in Africa. The government of Japan will make its utmost efforts to support businesses in Africa. In particular, I would like to highlight the importance of support for startups, green investment, and investment to foster human resources. There is a growing trend in Africa that younger entrepreneurs are trying to address social challenges by way of doing business at the level of their local communities. 10 participants from Japanese startup firms are attending this forum. In order to support these innovative initiatives through public and private sector cooperation, the government of Japan would like to help the effort of startups working to initiate or expand their businesses in Africa. At the same time, the government of Japan continues to improve the business environment with a view to promoting investment towards Africa. We will establish bilateral committees on improvement of the business environment as public-private platforms to discuss and solve issues faced on the ground in 4 countries. The second point is green investment. We would like to announce the establishment of Japan's Green Growth Initiative with Africa. This initiative aims at structural transformations towards net zero whilst responding to climate change. We aim to use Japanese technologies to accelerate green growth by capturing Africa's enormous potential for green growth and addressing its adaptation needs. For this purpose, partnership with the private sector is indispensable. I would like to enhance this initiative together with all of the participants in this forum. The third point is investment in human resources. It is a quintessentially Japanese approach to develop human resources by utilizing various networks, including those in the private sector and academia. I will strongly promote investment that fosters human resources. The government of Japan would like to announce the Africa-Japan Industrial Human Resource Development Initiative for the future. Has been newly relaunched to develop human resources, targeting members of Africa's younger generations who contribute to industrial advancement. We will provide education and training opportunities to over 5,000 people over the next 3 years to cultivate future business leaders. In addition to industrial human resource development over the next 3 years, we will train 300,000 people across a wide range of sectors looking ahead to the future. In this forum, I look forward to private sector participants' presentation of their outcomes on the business in Africa. I also hope this forum provides the establishment of networking opportunities that would lead to future business expansion in Africa. I understand that 33 memorandum of understandings will be newly announced out of more than 90 MOUs related to various sectors, including energy, natural resources, infrastructure, agriculture, healthcare, and IT. I hope the signatories of these MOUs will establish long-term partnerships through these efforts. I would like to end my speech with my sincere wishes for business relationships between Japan and Africa to be further strengthened through this business forum.
Prime Minister Kishida, thank you very much. And now it is our great pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Kais Said, President of the Republic of Tunisia. President Said, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much for this opportunity given to us to be present at this forum.
كنت منذ حين أستمع باهتمام كبير لخطاب السيد الوزير الأول.
I was able to have a talk with Mr. Kishida, Prime Minister Kishida today. Also having listened to his speech just now, I realized anew the importance of developing human resources. Human resources are the most valuable on the planet. Globally, we have been suffering on a very large scale from the corona pandemic, and it continues to affect us in every way, even today. We need new ideas, we need new concepts, and I speak for all of us here. Looking back at history, those of us who live in Africa we ask ourselves and we realize why and how Africa's dreams have not been fulfilled to this day. On this large continent, holding a huge potential,
هذه القارة
Nevertheless, it is a continent that is the poorest in the world.
وبؤسا في كافة المجالات. اليوم
We need to
نحن في
have
إلى
different visions for the future,
مختلف تماما
stepping away from the
عن
ways of the
التصورات
past.
السابقة. وهذا الصباح
And for this end,
يوم أمس
this forum and my talks with
وزير الخارجية
the Foreign Minister of Japan, Mr. Hayashi, will contribute a great deal towards its realization.
في ظرف وجيز
I
جدا.
learned about how Japan recovered from the ravages of the Second World War and built itself up to the large power that it is now,
إلى
with
قوة
huge amounts of economic growth.
اقتصادية عالمية.
And at the same time,
وتمكنت خاصة
Japan has been able to hold on to
على
and
ثقافتها
its history and its culture and its eagerness towards
وتصورها
life.
للحياة بوجه عام. وأنا كعديد الدراسات التي تم وضعها
I think this can be
المقارنات بين
of great
النهضة
interest
العربية
to the Arab world.
والنهضة الإفريقية.
Japan's growth and recovery was a huge success story, and we need to learn why we were not being able to recover in the same way. We need to learn how the Japanese managed to hold on to their values and fundamental beliefs. Not only did Japan recover, it became one of the greatest powers in the world. If we were to take a historical approach, in the northern part of Africa or in the western part of Africa, in Central Africa, there have been parallel multiple Africas in the past, and this needs to be integrated. It lacked harmonization in the past, and for many decades
على مدى عقود من الزمن مؤسسات تعبر عن إرادة الشعوب الإفريقية.
Although Africa held a huge amount of natural resources, we were not able to benefit from those,
في كافة مجالات الحياة.
and that is a reality.
أحدى الدول الإفريقية ربما الرقم قديم نسبيا مؤمل الحياة في هذه الدولة الإفريقية لم يتجاوز 42 سنة.
For the last 42 years,
البقاء للأقوى 42 سنة مؤمل الحياة، في حين أنا مؤمل الحياة في عدد من الدول الأوروبية الشمالية يقترب من 80 سنة. مؤمل الحياة 80 سنة، حروب داخلية.
Correction. European people, the average age, longevity rate is in their 80s, and compared to that, in the Arab world, in Africa, it is almost half, around age 40, and that needs to be rectified, and people's lives improved. There is a problem of poverty, the aftermath of the corona pandemic, and these things continue to make us suffer. And it is also difficult at the same time to compare the northern and south part of Africa. So through this TICAD, Japan and Tunisia can stand side by side and strengthen our cooperation. Prime Minister Kishida talked about how valuable human resources were, and I completely agree.
وهذه الثروة البشرية لا يمكن أن تحقق
In order for countries, for people to grow, It needs political stability,
سياسية
an essential prerequisite.
غيابا للحروب
Africa has been mired in conflict according to the media.
أما تذكر بالنسبة إلى لاعبي كرة القدم في أوروبا أو تذكر الحروب والمآسي.
So all Europeans hear about Africa is how mired in conflict we are, maybe perhaps a little bit about African football. And we need to ask ourselves why this happens, why we leave such an impression. And I do think one of the reasons is the lack of a political center, of a stable government in many African countries. So through this forum,
اليوم في هذا الملتقى ورحمة الله على أنه في تونس التي أعطت
which by the way, it is a wonderful honor that TICAD8 and the Business Forum is taking place in our country, Tunisia.
يتغير أو سيتطور حجم التبادل التجاري إلى ما يقارب 28 مليار دولار.
And we must work together to enhance our trading partnership and the volume of our trade, and that the volume and the amount of trade and the diversity of the business relationship will be further enhanced in the future. 300 firms are active. So by facing these challenges and living in these very challenging times, and also bearing in mind our historical background, we must do our utmost to strengthen the friendship and collaboration between our two countries, between Africa and Japan, and work together in order to reach our common goal. In particular, in the private sector, I cannot stress how important the role of the private sector is.
ويجب أن نجد الآليات الكفيلة بضمان فعالية ونجاعة هذا القطاع. يجب أن نجد آليات قانونية.
And I feel the urgent need to have a stable framework for the private sector to operate smoothly, and a fair and equitable environment. I mean politically, from the highest to the most municipal levels, so that trade can take place in a safe and stable and fair environment, in order for investors to find us attractive.
والشراكات التي نتحدث عنها في لا يمكن أن تؤدي
political stability,
النتائج المرجوة إلا
social frameworks,
استقرار سياسي.
Those are absolutely essential. And throughout all of this, the dignity of each human being must be protected. We have common visions and goals, and I have no doubt of that.
لتهيئة بيئة استثمارية تشجع على ريادة الأعمال وقادرة على احتضان رواد الأعمال
Japanese and Africans working together to create new companies, to create startups.
بين القطاع العام والقطاع الخاص ونجح في عديد الدول.
And I am aware that there are many success stories around between such African companies and Japanese companies in very many sectors.
من القطاعات الأخرى
So developmental partnership,
من روافد التنمية
partnership,
بشراكة بين القطاعين العام والخاص أو
scope of which is becoming wider and wider.
العام والخاص. فلنتصور معا آليات جديدة.
Although we must bear the reality of the environment and the situations today in mind, I do believe that we are absolutely capable of striving towards our goals together.
الأمر الذي يجب التأكيد عليه هو تخفيف عبء الدين.
And I do feel that we need to work on the details to make each and every load at every point of business process to remove obstacles so that development can take place at speed without any barriers.
هذه الديون في مجالات منتجة وتمكين الشباب على وجه الخصوص من أن يكونوا روادا في المجال.
And I cannot stress how important it is that the younger generation be given free rein to develop their ideas, to present their businesses, and to grow.
ستواصل العمل
So the strategic partnership between Japan and Africa
بين أفريقيا واليابان وفتح آفاق جديدة أمام المستثمرين اليابانيين
to be able to create the kind of environment in which this can take place in the most fruitful way is vital, and
الاقتصادية والجغرافية.
We will do our utmost to make this a reality.
بالمناسبة
May I say again to my friends in Japan, please come to Tunisia and invest in Tunisia.
للاستثمار في تونس ولبعض المشاريع في تونس بالشراكة مع التونسيين بشراكة
I hope many of you here today will consider investing in companies in Tunisia. Using the occasion of this forum, I think we share a common will to move forward, and we should be able to create a model partnership in this way, bringing about development, success, and a culture of success. And I do place people at the center of all this, and I do not mean the population size or anything of that kind. Each and every individual has the potential to contribute to this union.
بفضل هذه الشبكات الجديدة للتواصل الاجتماعي صار الشباب
In the modern world, the distance between countries and nations and people has very much become closer, and it has become easier to find friendships and partners from around the world that share common interests and goals. I firmly believe that we can be successful in our collaboration. We share common basic values and a hunger for success. Let us move forward and onwards with hope, ambitions, dreams. Let us all strive together to make those real. May God bless you all.
President Said, thank you. And now, it is our great pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal. President Sall, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. President Mr. Qais Said, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Mr. Kashida, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and from my own position, the participation of the private sector, of the Japanese and African private sector to the TICAD proceedings brings a complement, a very indispensable component to the official cooperation between Japan and Africa. And this by developing investment and trade. It is also a way of moving from a philosophy of assistance to a partnership dynamic, sustainable partnership dynamic that would be beneficial to all. Africa, in fact, is a land of opportunities. 30 million of square kilometers, and an important population. We will be 2 billions by 2050, with abundant natural resources and an available labor. Hence, of course, we need to take up the issue of human capital, training, education for youth. Japan and its private sector do have the technological and financial capacities that are necessary to set up partnerships in Africa in sectors that are as varied as infrastructure, transportation, habitations and constructions, etc. We need to duplicate the Japanese development model and, in fact, implement it in the African continent. We're not going to reinvent things, but we will simply implement what has been successful in Africa. And we need also to develop hand-in-hand this continent in the agro-business sector. At one time when food security has become problematic, we do have an exponential demand for food in the world. And I'm convinced that in order to develop trade and investment, we necessarily need to intensify our efforts at least at 3 levels. First of all, we need to continue to improve the entrepreneurship environment in Africa, and namely the regulatory and legal framework, but also training of good quality human resources. Number 2, we on the Japanese part, and this is very important, we need to set up mechanisms, funding mechanisms, new ones that would be appropriate to accompany Japanese firms and companies in Africa and all those who, in fact, would like to invest or who come as EPCs. We need to have funding that would accompany such investments. We know that there is, in fact, a Japanese enterprise that would like to work on mineral and also biofertilizers. You have the technology, you have the know-how, and we have the market and the will. And therefore, we should, in fact, join hand in hand in order to build up the investment. So the interest of such fora is to listen to the operators themselves who know better the context, be it in Africa or in Japan. And on the basis of what has all the previous proceedings, governments can accompany and adapt and also accompany the private sector on both sides. Of course, this poses the issue of funding mechanisms. and also of making regulations more flexible, especially for exports, because Japan is very respectful of its commitments and of its frameworks, especially within OECD. And of course, this is also OECD. I'm addressing OECD in this speech. We need to come to perfect adequacy with the present needs. But considering that Africa has immense needs for investment, we cannot build, in fact, the investment in the country based on a 10-year in fact, investment. We need to reduce the rates so that Africa may take up the necessary volume that will allow it to catch up with its economic belatedness and to be up, in fact, to human standards and expectations. Therefore, I wish that Japan works hand in hand with Africa and with other partners to improve OECD rules and adapt them based on the type of the exports, the materials exported. Number 3, together we should work on making more visible the investment opportunities in Africa to Japanese enterprises and improve risks on the continent. I know that this risk perception is much higher, in fact, than the risks themselves. As a consequence, this, of course, in fact, reduces productivity and increases insurance rates. We need together to work together so that risk evaluation be more transparent and more fair, and that it reflects the reality of all countries that have been assessed. It's in that spirit of partnership that I would like to call Jafrica, or this Jafrica, to bring it into a win-win partnership, and that I would like to salute the TICAD8 Business Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, now comes the time for the MOU ceremony, which showcases MOUs between Japanese and African companies and government agencies. I would like to ask Minister Hiroshi, President Said, and President Sall to stay on the stage as witnesses of the MOUs. Please allow us one moment to set up the stage. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite one more witness from the Japanese government on the stage for these agreements, and Mr. Shinichi Nakatani, State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. Please give him a warm round of applause. Welcome, Mr. Minister. We will now introduce the names of the companies and institutions. These will be read out in order. Please come onto the stage when you hear your name. So we now present to you 33 MOUs between Japanese and African companies and governments. So we start with the first one, with the first MOU between it's a business partnership in Nigeria, AAIC Investment, leading Japanese pharmaceutical company, and Drugstock Incorporated. The next MOU is joint project for entry-level programming learning service for children using robots in Egypt between Castalia Company and iSchool. Next, Memorandum of Collaboration, MOC, to explore collaboration to promote governmental program Digital Ethiopia 2025. Sumitomo Corporation, Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, Ministry of Innovation and Technology of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Safaricom Telecommunications, Ethiopia. Next, collaboration to expand the business of air conditioning and the refrigeration system in West and Central Africa, Daikin Industries, CFAO. Thank you, gentlemen. MOU on the partnership between 500 million Delphos Impact Limited, the gas, Green Cape Farms to boost sustainable financing in Africa and emerging countries. The gas limited liability, Green Cape Farms Limited, Delphos Holdings Limited. Next, MOU between Smart Capital and DFP to facilitate collaborations between Tunisian and Japanese private and public sectors, as well as supporting the startup ecosystem. Double Feather Partners and Smart Capital. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, Kenya Agricultural Value Chain Project, Fugitive Corporation, Muki Investment Cooperative Society Limited. Thank you. Next, cooperation in development of the public-private partnership model for a new road alignment between Apemenyaim, Agona Junction, and Daboaz in Ghana, Index Consulting, Maida Corporation, the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Next, green hydrogen and ammonia collaboration. Itoshu Corporation, Sazol. For the next MOU between JBIC and the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, Ministry of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire. Next, amended Memorandum of Understanding between the Ministry of Mines and Energy of the Government of the Republic of Namibia and Japan Oil, Gas and Metals National Corporation. So Japan Oil, Gas and Metals National Corporation and the Ministry of Mines and Energy of the Government of Namibia. Next, construction of a girls' boarding secondary school, Japan Tobacco, Urambo Development Initiative, the Urambo District Council. Business development for blue economy promotion in Mauritius, JGC Corporation and Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping. MOU on joint business development in Angola with IEP, Marubeni Corporation, IEP. Ammonia, urea fertilizer and methanol co-production plant project for the Republic of Senegal, Mitsubishi Corporation, Petrosen Trading and Services, Salik Energy, Sana'i ve Ticaret. Thank you, gentlemen. C² intends to expanding into Democratic Republic of Congo, supported by Mitsui and Co. Mitsui and Co. C² Link Holdings. Providing insurance service for Japanese clients in Mozambique, Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance Company Europe Limited, and Global Alliance Seguros. New collaboration for ESG sustainability in Sub-Saharan Africa, Mizuho Bank and the Standard Bank of South Africa Limited. Strengthen the strategic partnership and further enhance the collaboration to continue supporting the growth of Africa, MUFG Bank, African Trade Insurance Agency. For the next MOU, local manufacturing of EV micromobility with the Musashi e-axle for carbon neutrality, Musashi Seimitsu Industry, Pan Automobile Kaduna. For the next MOU, collaboration on various ICT opportunities in 18 African countries, NEC Africa, CFAO. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, MOU for development of traffic signal system in Africa, Nippon Signal, Toyota Tsusho Corporation, CFAO Kenya Limited. For the next MOU, road maintenance and management in Uganda, Shimizu Corporation, Uganda National Road Authority. MOU between Helios and Sogist for business collaboration in Africa, Sogist Collaboration Corporation and Helios Group. Thank you, gentlemen. For the next MOU, cooperation for reinsurance arrangement in Tunisia, Sampo Japan Insurance and Ami Assurance. The next MOU to introduce, distribute, sell and apply the soil hardener stain in the road and agricultural construction sectors in the Republic of Ghana, SPEC Company Limited and EB Unity Company. Next, MOU for joint demonstration of remote digital education through integrated solar power and ICT facilities on electrified and internet and connected school facilities. So, Sukrocube, Japon, a municipality of Sandiara, Ministry of National Education, Senegal. MOU to strengthen a relationship and support ESG, SDG initiative in Africa. Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, Africa Finance Corporation. Memorandum of Understanding on Human Resource Development for South Africa Automotive Component Industry, the Association for Overseas Technical Cooperation and Sustainable Partnerships, Automotive Industry Development Center, Eastern Cape. MOU between Kenyan and Toshiba Corporation on O&M services and capacity development for geothermal power plants in third countries. Toshiba Energy System and Solutions Corporation, Kenya Electricity Generating Company, PLC. MOU for pre-feasibility study for the development of seawater desalination by Renewable Energy, Toyota Tsusho Corporation, Société Nationale d'Exploitation et de Distribution des Eaux. MOU for study on next generation ground space bidirectional optical communication in Senegal, Warp Space Inc. and Sumiki, Japan. Thank you, gentlemen. And our final MOU concerns human resource technical skill development between Kenyan and Japanese governments. This MOU marks another important milestone in the long history of economic cooperation between the two countries. The Kenyan Ministry of Industry, Trade and Enterprise Development and the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry have agreed to further develop their cooperation to promote human resource technical skills development. The MOC was signed by Kenyan Cabinet Secretary Mrs. Honorable Berry Shemutai Maina and Japanese State Minister Mr. Shinichi Nakatani at Tunis today, aiming to establish a framework to realize the Industry 4.0 in Kenya. Both signatories are on the stage in front of you. The two sides express their willingness to contribute on the economic development of Kenya. Congratulations on this achievement. Thank you for an applause for this last MOU and this memorandum concludes the MOU ceremony. Thank you very much. Thank for everyone and each of you, ladies and gentlemen. Now I would like to ask the witnesses to leave the stage. They will take a tour of the exhibition space and then depart. Thank you very much to all four of our witnesses for their participation in this MOU ceremony. Thank you for welcoming as it should. So please give them another big round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, as they tour the exhibition area, we will show you a video created by Jetro for business opportunities in Tunisia.
Hello, thank you very much for watching. My name is Tomoko Watanabe. I do research at Jetro Paris office, Africa desk. Today, I introduce Tunisia, the smallest country in the North African Maghreb region. Tunisia has a rich historical heritage of Carthage ruins and resort areas with Mediterranean climate. The main industry is tourism. The small country with a population of 12 million has also developed an export-oriented manufacturing industry for Europe. As its shortest distance to Europe is just 14 kilometers, today I introduced Tunisia local companies with focus on textile industry, which explores new direction in the post-cold era, ICT startups, aircraft, and organic agriculture. Textile industry has lost its market share due to Asian expansion, but as the global supply chain is now a subject of COVID-led review, changes are emerging for Tunisia, given its geographical advantage for markets of Europe, Africa, and Middle East. This is the status of Monastir, home of textile industry.
Each year, our company produces 4.5 million pieces. We are employing more than 5,500 workers. We have invested in a water treatment station and water recycling station. 85% of the water that we are using is now being reused. We have invested a lot in technological technological improvements. We are also now investing in solar energy, and we are still searching for ways to make our products more sustainable and more ecological, and to give the best product for our clients and for the final consumer.
The ICT industry with the Tunisia is also focusing on niche markets such as specialty fibers for seats, sportswear, and other high-tech fibers and luxury underwear to add value to the industry. The ICT industry, with its abundant IT engineers, has developed as the back office of Europe. I introduced startups that have been supporting the industry. Here are two top companies. First, AI company InstaDeep.
InstaDeep is a provider of AI services. However, we're also working on our own products. We are now at around 212 employees. We've been growing quite a bit, and I hope that really shows Tunisian talent and Tunisian startups that they can succeed no matter where they came from, as long as they work hard. But I believe that what we have achieved can really show Tunisia the path forward, and that hopefully it'll help others to grow the way we have grown.
InstaDeep successfully completed major projects with Google and Deutsche Bahn and developed a system to detect and monitor high-risk mutant strains of the new coronavirus. In this January, the company successfully raised $100 million in funding. It has grown into a global startup. Expensier is a fintech startup that has developed an app that digitalizes 100% of the accounting process of business travel expenses by simple photo taking of receipts with a smartphone. The app is multilingual and customized for individual and big companies. Started in Tunisia, Expensier has offices in France, Germany, and Spain, and employs over 100 staff. The company is very much interested in Japan and looking for partners. In 2018, Tunisia enacted Africa's first startup law. Based on this law, till today, 682 companies obtained the label. The passionate entrepreneurial spirit of this youth is there to feel. Now, aviation industry, I introduce a company that manufactures and sells 100% made in Tunisia small 4 to 8 seat aircraft in southern South, Avionav.
Les coûts de production في تونس sont très concurrentiels par rapport les concurrents تاعنا في أوروبا. Donc هذا يخلينا يسمح لنا باش نعملوا برودكسيون تاع طيارات haut de gamme avec des coûts de production raisonnables. Donc on va intégrer l'artificial intelligence الذكاء الصناعي في طياراتنا باش يكونوا vraiment يعني cutting edge product ان شاء الله في des produits pour l'avenir. دونك نخدموا على الايباد سكرين كوكبيت سمارت كوكبيت باش الطياره بتاعك تبقى تحكي معك وتنصحك وتنصحها وتسمعك وتسمعها كما ابينا كما اي شركه في تونس. دونك il faut investir في l'intelligence, il faut investir في الفيتور.
Following the automotive components industry, the aircraft components industry has been growing strongly for more than a decade. 81 overseas aircraft-related companies such as French Safran employs 17,000 people. It covers the entire value chain of development and manufacturing sectors from Airframes, seats, electrical systems, surface treatment and painting, as well as maintenance and human resource development. This industry is a compilation of Tunisian manufacturing industry. In terms of plant area for organic farming, Tunisia is the #1 in Africa. Its organic farming is represented by olive oil. Here is Olise, producer of premium organic virgin oil under its own brand.
Principalement, on est producteur d'huile d'olive, donc c'est une ferme de 30 hectares qui est sur 2 parcelles, لهنا في واد الليل منوبة et في الزهرة في منوبة في ولاية منوبة زادة, où on cultive des oliviers. Donc notre équipe est composée à 50% de femmes rurales de la région. Le but, c'est de produire une huile d'olive vierge extra de qualité premium, mais aussi qui est responsable sur le plan environnemental et le plan social. Puisque les oliviers, they act as a carbon sink. Cette année, on a planté plus de 2000 oliviers. Et ma sœur, qui est ma cofondatrice, Nedia, elle a gagné un trophée de Best Woman Producer for the Year.
Is linked to that of EU. It makes its exports easy. Some Japanese companies are packaging olive oil for the Japanese market and promoting an effective use of olive leaves. Organic herbs are also attracting attention for use as essence and medicines. Tunisia is a diverse, pro-Japan and geographically advantageous nation with its location, rich human capital in science and labor force with good cost performance. Tunisia is where Japanese companies can consider having production bases for European, African, and Middle East markets. You can find business chances in infrastructure and facility development to support these activities. I hope TICAD8 in Tunis will provide Japanese companies with opportunities to identify business chances in Tunisia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We will now have some remarks from our honorable guests. In this session, we will hear messages from various members of the Japanese and Tunisian business communities, including the governments and the representatives of the development finance institutions and international organizations that have contributed to the strengthening of economic and social ties between Japan and Africa. First, I'm delighted to welcome back Mr. Shinichi Nakatani, State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. Mr. Nakatani, welcome back.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nakatani Shinichi, State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. I feel honored to be here today at the TICAD8 Business Forum together with distinguished participants from Africa and Japan. Tunisia was my first destination in Africa 3 years ago. Tunisia was my first. I am happy to be back here again for TICAD8. I witnessed the MOU ceremony and also took the stage as one of the MOU signers. METI and the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development of Kenya signed the MOC. For human resource development in Kenya, 92 MOUs have been announced today. This shows the strong relationship that Africa and Japan have developed. I sincerely welcome it as a clear path toward concrete outcomes. Africa and Japan have been building a partnership to cooperate and develop together. The Japanese companies here today are seeking out possibility to solve social issues in Africa and to grow together. Even under difficult conditions, including the COVID-19 pandemic and the situation in Ukraine, they have never stopped. In response to their enthusiasm, METI announced the 4 policy pillars in May this year. We mainly focus, first, expanding business with the aim to solve social challenges through innovation. Second, accelerating industrialization. Third, supporting the green growth of Africa. And lastly, further strengthening financial measures to promote private investment. Let me explain some concrete measures by METI. Under the first pillar, METI and JETRO have launched J-Bridge in Africa. This is a platform to promote collaboration between Japan companies and African startups. For Japanese companies and startups seeking to enter the African market, we initiated the AFDX project. AFDX supports the creation of the business by utilizing digital technologies. We also support Japanese companies to develop products and services in cooperation with local partners. This is called the J Partnerships Project. We are also considering ways to strengthen cooperation with venture capital as well as concrete measures to supply risk money. For the second pillar, we have launched AFIF, the African Japan Industrial Human Resource Development Initiative for the Future. AFIF provides 5,000 young Africans with education and training to get practical skills. We also focus on investment agreements to improve business environments. After TICAD8, agreements with Côte d'Ivoire and Morocco entered into force. We agreed in principle on the text with Angola and start discussions with Tunisia. The third pillar relates to Japan's green growth initiative with Africa that Prime Minister Kishida announced this morning. Under this initiative, we support power infrastructure development, including regulated power supplies, the use of the abundant renewable energy resources in Africa, and energy resources development. We also pursue strong cooperation in the field of mineral resources and promote fair and sustainable mining businesses by taking advantage of Japan's technologies and experiments. It is also essential to respond to climate change. We promote GHG emission reduction through cooperation between Africa and Japan, utilizing the joint credit mechanism. Adaptation measures are also important. We enhance good business practices such as stable supply of water and food, and promote investments through public-private partnerships. Lastly, in terms of financing, Nippon Export and Investment Insurance, NEXI, will sign an MOU with the African Trade Insurance Agency, ATI, towards NEXI's investment in ATI. It is expected to promote further trade and investment by Japanese companies and contribute to the economic growth of Africa. With Africa, Japan aims to build a partnership for growing together and to contribute to the resilient and sustainable growth of Africa. Let me humbly ask the governments and companies of Africa to know better the Japanese companies and their high technologies and to build a solid and long-term partnership. I would like to conclude my remarks by hoping that this two-day forum gives us opportunities to further strengthen economic relations between Africa and Japan. Thank you for your kind attention.
Mr. Nakatani, thank you so much. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Jun Karube, Chair of Committee on Sub-Saharan Africa, Keidanren, Japan Business Federation, and Senior Executive Advisor of Toyota Tsusho Corporation. Mr. Karube, thank you for speaking to us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm grateful and honored to have this opportunity to talk to you from government, from business, and from other sectors. Africa is a great frontier of 21st century. It is on pace on account for 1/4 of the world population by 2050. And its economic development will include the emergence of a huge consumer market as the middle class grows. We at Keidanren are developing careful attention to the African Union's long-term vision, Agenda 2063. That vision provides for pursuing autonomous and sustainable development through socio-economic transformation. Its goal and its initiative for achieving those goals mesh with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and with the initiative that Keidanren is proposing as Society 5.0 for SDGs. We in Japanese business are committed to helping fulfill Agenda 2063 through our African operations. That will mean working to help put in place 3 kinds of infrastructure. The first one, hard infrastructure, includes such social groundwork as power and transport grids and frameworks for financial transactions. The second, software infrastructure, includes bilateral and multilateral trade and investment agreements. The third, human infrastructure, includes skills and capabilities. I will introduce some African initiatives that we at Toyota Tsusho are tackling to support autonomous and sustainable development. Those initiatives have emerged from our long history here. We at Toyota Tsusho and at our French subsidiary CFAO operates in all 54 nations of Africa under the banner With Africa for Africa. And we employ 22,000 people here in Africa. That is 1/3 of our global workforce. In advance of TICAD8, we announced 4 initiatives for contributing to autonomous and sustainable development. They pertain to advancing industrial transformation, to greening the economy, to promoting global health, and to capacity building. The initial aims for industrial transformation in Africa are to deepen the industrial base in each region and to generate employment. At Toyota Tsusho, our original African business was primarily in wholesaling, but we have since broadened our scope with local manufacturing and even the retail business. We are cultivating demand in diverse markets, and we are serving that demand with local production. We at Toyota Tsusho are encouraging startup dynamism through corporate venture capital. We have set up the investment funds, Mobility 54 and Health 54 for Just for Africa, to provide capital financing to startups in the mobility and the healthcare sectors. Those funds will support advances in their target sectors through investment in ventures that offer innovative technology and services. Meanwhile, greening the economy is the foremost theme at TICAD8. Toyota Tsusho operates a 260 megawatt wind farm in Egypt, and in Kenya, we have constructed a geothermal power plant and invested in an off-grid power provider. Global health is another important emphasis at TICAD8. Sound development for Africa will depend on sound health for Africa's 1.3 billion people. Africa is a focus of broad-ranging activities in healthcare at Toyota Tsusho. For example, we are an African leader in wholesaling pharmaceuticals. Our pharmaceutical operations here deliver 31,000 kinds of medical and related products daily to 8,600 hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies in 26 nations. In another healthcare undertaking in Africa, we deliver medical and blood serum to remote communities with drones. In addition, we have developed a vehicle for providing cold transport of vaccines. The vaccine has received the only qualification for that function under the World Health Organization's performance, quality, and safety standard. That brings me to the fourth initiative that I wanted to share with you. Sustainable growth and development for Africa will hinge on capacity building. We at Toyota Tsusho operate Toyota Academies in Angola and Kenya for providing men and women with education and technical training. We will continue working in this manner to help lay a foundation for lasting growth in Africa. In closing, let me emphasize the significance of holding this face-to-face gathering, despite the continuing constraints imposed by COVID-19. Let us all pray that the pandemic will continue to subside and the socio-economic activities can return to normal. And let us all do our part to build ever stronger and ever more beneficial ties between Africa and Japan. Thank you, merci, and ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Mr. Marubeni. Next up, I'm delighted to introduce Mr. Tetsuji Ohashi, Chair of Committee on Sub-Saharan African, Keidanren, Japan Business Federation, and Chairman of the Board of Komatsu. Mr. Ohashi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Tetsuji Ohashi of Komatsu Limited. Also, I do co-chair Keidanren's subcommittee of Sub-Saharan Africa with Mr. Karube. I am deeply honored and grateful that I can have an opportunity to address you today. To fundamentally strengthen the relationship between Japan and Africa, we will support self-initiated and sustainable growth of Africa as our basic stance. In particular, the human resource development builds a foundation for national development. It is an extremely important task to train people who support Africa's self-initiated and sustainable growth over the medium and the long term. In addition to securing access to basic education such as primary and middle school education and improving its quality, and I believe Japan needs to support multi-tiered human resource development in Africa by cooperating in the education and the training of senior government officials as well as corporate executives, middle management, employees, administrative specialists, engineering, and mechanics, which are conducted respectively by African governments and the companies at the different levels. Now I change to the Komatsu. This is one of the examples that the Komatsu is putting the emphasis on the human development. Komatsu, the construction and mining machinery manufacturer, where I serve as a chairman, was established in Japan 101 years ago in 1921. And the basic principle was quality first, technology innovation, globalization, and human resource development. These principles have been passed on to as a part of Komatsu corporate DNA. As construction and mining machinery operates under demanding conditions in harsh environments, after sales, maintenance, and operator training to ensure the proper machine use as crucial. And more than 50 years ago, in the 1960s, while keeping the founding principle in mind, Komatsu experts instructed maintenance and service mechanics, as well as the machine operators, to ensure safe, accident-free operation of machinery in Africa. Since then, Komatsu has strived to support human resource development so that the people of Africa can further develop their own countries. In total, more than 40,000 Komatsu machineries operates in 48 countries in Africa and 121 sites for sales and service run by Komatsu and its distributor, and they contribute to earth moving in construction project and the mining project in different countries of Africa. Giving us some example, in Angola, almost for 8 years from 2009, following a long period of civil wars, Komatsu provided bulldozers converted demining machinery for anti-personnel mines and construction machinery at no cost in support of joint effort of public and private sectors to reconstruct the local community as a whole through landmine removal. Another example, with the assistance of Japanese government grant aid and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, or UNIDO, Komatsu supported the Japan Heavy Equipment Operators School in Liberia by training instructors and donating resources such as medium-size and mini-size hydraulic excavators, and training material and train people. In a similar cooperative effort with the Japanese government and UNIDO in Uganda, Komatsu is now supporting the new METRAC training center and the construction of which will begin this year. In South Africa, another example, since 2007, Komatsu has collaborated with Denlong. This is one of our customers in the operation of a community development center, providing young people who face high unemployment rate with skills needed to get jobs and opportunities for general education. In total, nearly 1,500 students having courses there. Also, in South Africa, Komatsu launched a 3-year program at the Sedibeng Tibet College in Joburg in 2018, providing specialized and practical vocational training for students majoring in mechanical and electrical engineering. These are some examples of Komatsu's support for human resource development. Komatsu will continue to contributing to human resource development that fuels self-initiated and sustainable development in Africa. Many Japanese companies in Africa have been doing a similar thing, developing the people, developing the human resources. That's I just want to deliver today. I'd like to conclude my remarks with a wish that the outcomes of TICAD8 and this business forum will further strengthen economic relations between Japan and Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ohashi. For our next speaker, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Mutsu Iwai, Chairman of Africa Project Team, Keizai Duyokai, and Chairperson of the Board, Japan Tobacco. Mr. Iwai, welcome and thank you for attending today.
Thank you, Monsieur. So, Your Excellencies and distinguished guests, first of all, I'd like to address my sincere appreciation to those who have organized this summit despite the challenges posed by COVID-19. Today, I'd like to touch upon 2 topics, and first one is JT Group's activities in Africa. In Africa, JT Group operates in 31 countries, which is almost 1/4 of the total number of the countries we operate in the world. We have been heavily investing in Africa since we strongly believe in its future growth. Since our first entry to Africa in 1999, we have invested more than $2.7 billion, which includes the acquisition of companies in Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia. With more than 3,800 talented employees, our operations in Africa are doing well, but we do not intend to stop out just because of our business success. For us, the current success is not enough because we think we have to fulfill our responsibility not only to our valued consumers, shareholders, employees, but also to the wider society. This is a heart of our management principle named 4S model. S means stakeholder satisfaction, and we have been actively implementing CSR activities in Africa, following this principle. Let me share some examples of our CSR activities in Africa. Our flagship program, named Arise, has been committed to eliminate child labor, and nearly 65,000 children have been enrolled in education since 2011. In Africa, this program has been conducted in tobacco-growing communities in Malawi, Zambia, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, we also have a program called WASH, which is designed to help secure safe water. To this date, about 200,000 Ethiopians have benefited from this program. We are also constructing schools and clinics, digging wells, and donating thousands of desks, uniforms, and textbooks to school. By sharing these examples of our CSR activities, I wanted to demonstrate the mentality Japanese companies have in general. There is an old Japanese saying, three-way benefits, meaning business should not only benefit the buyer and the seller, but also the society as a whole. So we inherit this philosophy from our ancestor and embedded in our culture. So Japanese companies strongly willing to contribute to the society they are operating in. So from here, I would like to move to my second topic in my capacity as a representative of Japanese private sector. As well as JT Group, all participants from Japan firmly believe in great potential of Africa's future growth. So we also strongly believe Japan should be Africa's true partner and grow together with Africa. To this end, Keizai Doyukai, the Japan Association of Corporate Executives, decided to establish an about $100 million impact fund dedicated to Africa, which will start investing next spring. When we take a closer look at the emerging trends on the continent, we see an encouraging number of startups challenging to solve various social issues such as healthcare, agriculture, green and energy in innovative ways that we cannot witness in Japan. The new impact fund will invest in those startups. It needs to be noted that this impact fund is not only provide capital to startups, because the fund is supported by Doyukai. Doyukai is business association where around 1,500 corporate executives of leading Japanese companies participate as individuals to make policy proposals with a broad, long-term perspective and not in the interest of any specific company or industry. The association's highest governing body unanimously resolved to establish this impact fund with a mindset that Japan should be a true partner to Africa. With this mindset and wide network of Doyukai, the impact fund can go beyond just providing capital by, for instance, transferring Japanese technologies, knowledge, and experiences which will contribute to human resource development and scaling up African startup. I'm confident that this impact fund will further contribute to Africa's growth, along with existing ODAs and individual companies' investments from Japan. I understand that our plan might be rather ambitious. Therefore, we need close dialogue with honorable participants here. I look forward to having a fruitful discussion during the 2 days. Thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Iwai, thank you. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Samir Majoul, President of Tunisian Union of Industry, Trade and Handcrafts. Mr. Majoul, welcome.
Alors, je suis Samir Majoul, je suis président de l'organisation patronale nationale, l'UTICA, Union tunisienne d'industrie, du commerce et d'artisanat, fondée en 1947 et qui a aujourd'hui un historique de 75 ans. Mesdames, Messieurs, je suis fier de voir mon pays, la Tunisie, accueillir la 8e session de la conférence internationale de Tokyo sur le développement de l'Afrique, TICAD8. L'organisation de cette conférence pour la 2e fois en Afrique confirme la place importante de notre continent sur la scène mondiale.
Of our country on the international scene. Africa does have a huge human and natural resources and a great potential of development and has registered for years an honorable economic growth. This growth does not rest on the exploitation of raw matter, but also on production innovation and the creation of added value. Africa has become an attractive pole for investors, for inter-African exchanges have developed, favoring the economic integration of the continent and in fact, establishing free trade pathways and also a common market for 2.5 billion individuals by 2050. Japan is indeed an inspiration for the entrepreneurial world for two reasons, for many reasons, but I shall only mention two reasons. Because the oldest enterprise in the world is indeed a Japanese enterprise, Kongogumi, which has operated for more than 2,045 years. This family enterprise of construction, in fact, goes back to 518, and it was built in that, indeed to build, and has been developed and handed down by 4 generations of the Kombo family. The second inspiration for the entrepreneurial world that I would like to mention here comes from the Meiji Revolution. It's a revolution that needs to be copied and emulated from 1868. That marked a turning point in Japan. At that time, the objective was to provide Japan with the means of its power to catch up with the Western Industrial Revolution, and all the governments of the Meiji era have set a bet on private enterprises. Family SMEs have developed to become an aggregate with crisscross partnerships across sectors, including banking. They have been committed themselves to establishing air structure. They were already in public-private partnerships. They set out also to conquer outside and overseas markets. Today, the model has evolved in Keiratsu, that is conglomerate to, in fact, crisscross cooperation and across sectors, and which are here, in fact, these conglomerates have contributed to the growth of Japan after the Second World War. Some are honoring us with their presence, and I would like to salute them, thank them, and invite them to invest more in Tunisia and in Africa. And this is the second aspect of inspiration. If you were to merge these two inspirations, the message becomes even more clear. Family enterprises are founded to build and to develop and help grow one's own country. So this is a message to our politicians, a message to the whole of Africa. Get alliances with the private sector. Invest in the private sector, and you will see that growth will come in this way. And it is in that, precisely that spirit, that we are approaching this event of TICAD, the need to create an environment that would be propitious between Africa and Japan, and to be propelled into a developmental circle. Ladies and gentlemen, sciences, technologies, innovation, and human resource, talented human resources have played a very important role in the modernization of Japan. And indeed, these are the essential components to initiate development in Africa through Japanese-African partnerships. as foreseen by 2063 agenda that envisages an endogenous development and that traces the pathways and objectives of sustainable development, accelerate industrial transformation. Africa is the cradle of humanity and is also the most promising amongst all continents, and also that is rich with the youth of the world. Let us be ambitious, let us be brave, and I'm lifting this phrase and sentence from the president of AFDB. Technological transitions and innovations are indeed essential. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to salute this exceptional partnership between Africa and Japan based on the attachment and commitment to values, essential values, and also attached to a world order that is based on justice. And of course, this is inscribed in our ethics at TICAD. We should perhaps draw all the conclusions. We, in fact, benefit from the fact of being in peace and majority, and we can always all sit together around the table and find a solution. And Tunisia is one of the best places for this. But we realized at our own detriment in our countries that the economic stakes can no longer be separate from geopolitical aspects. That geo-production and sustainable supply is essential. That know-how, sustainable know-how is very important. That proximity also is very important, and that some sectors become strategic in some critical contexts and war contexts. So it's this geopolitical aspect that, in fact, induces us to invest in heavens of peace. And Africa is a heaven of peace, historical heavens of peace, to implement our concepts of national sovereignty and also of our global ethics and sovereignties. And I can mention the most important aspects of sovereignty: food sovereignty. You know that Africa is indeed a mine of water, of fertile lands, of sun, and of youth. And it can provide the world with health needs. Remember COVID-19 and also food. And we are indeed in favor of global health coverage. So energy also, renewable energies are important, and we have signed the Paris agreements. We have also signed an agreement regarding carbon neutrality, sovereignty, also cyber sovereignty, securitarian sovereignty, and logistics or logistical sovereignty. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, I'm calling, in fact, to cooperation on some global aspects to which we are very attached. We need to meet all, in fact, the challenges in order to provide the future generation with the best future. Excellencies, the message will, I hope, go through. Japan will be at the presidency of G8, supported by international financial institutions, World Bank, AFDB, and the framework of G7 and G20. I would like to renew my gratitude to all those who have contributed to organizing this in Tunisia, land of peace and land of hospitality. And all of these are, in fact, values to which we are attached. Long live Japanese-Tunisian friendship. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samir Majour. Next up, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Hedi Ben Abbas, President of the Tunisian-Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Ben Abbas, welcome.
Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give you many figures or speak only about investments, GDP, or returns, because those are just the outcome of the values that relate us as human beings. Let me please begin with these few words of haiku poetry by the Japanese poet Yosano Buson, entitled "Lighten One Candle." I quote, "The light of a candle is transferred to another candle, spring, twilight," end of quote. These are very few words, but what an ocean of meaning. What I learned from haiku poetry, which I love and admire, is the art of precision, accurateness, simplicity, profoundness, and refinement. Applied to business, it becomes effectiveness, commitment, quality, and reliability. If you want to define Japanese civilization and Japanese people, we could just say they are poetry made human. I personally learned from my Japanese friends and Japanese partners that hardworking, commitment, respect, and resilience are unshakable values and a solid ground on which we together can build a genuine, sustainable collaboration. You, Japanese business community and officials, believed and you still believe in this African continent when you launched in 1993 the TICAD initiative, the first state-sponsored development program in Africa, and you were right in believing in this continent and in its human potential. Today, Japan's and Japanese people and business community reputation is soaring high above all others. And you deserve it because you respect us as much as we respect you. You believe in us as much as we believe in you. A new paradigm is now highlighted by His Excellency Mr. Hosoda Kinishi, Japanese State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, on May 3rd in Nairobi, when he said that Japan is not looking to develop Africa, but it is looking to develop with Africa, which means that we all are on equal footing. As a Tunisian Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we worked hard to be ready for this major event of TICAD8 at a time when our continent is much in need to boost its economy, to foster a future based on respect and the protection of human dignity, because we all believe that no sustainable economic development is possible without human development in a healthy environment. As part of the private sector, the Chamber, together with prestigious professional Japanese organizations such as JETRO, JBCA, and JICA, with the full commitment of the Embassy of Japan to Tunis and His Excellency Shimizu's personal involvement, we put in place a roadmap with a guideline based on a simple idea: how to think future economic development out of the box, keeping in mind the 17 values of the global impact at a time when Africa is becoming again the gravity center of world economy. We ended up selecting projects that are of common interest, placing Tunisia as a platform for future Japanese investment in Africa, because we think it relevant to have a triangular business relationship in sectors of highly added values on a basis of the 3 W's: win, win, and win. The outcome of the roadmap can be summed up in few figures, published in this white book. 81 projects selected out of 225 propositions. 75% of them are related to artificial intelligence, digital and industry 4.0, green and blue economy, healthcare, and pharmaceutical. The investment volume is of $2.7 billion. Potential job creation, 35,000 jobs. Most of these jobs obey to the TICAD spirit, and have an African dimension and could be implemented in a number of different countries. This output, that took the chamber almost 2 years to accomplish, could not have been possible without the valuable contribution of Mr. Nasif Al-Khiriya, Secretary General of our chamber, and Mrs. Khadija Mizghani, Vice President, and all the board members. My last word will be about a hope that I am still clinging to, as well as a large part of the Tunisian business community, that is about building a strategic economic partnership between Tunisia and Japan. Japan has already a strong presence in South Africa to promote investment in the region, and another stronghold in Kenya for Eastern Africa, but there is a missing link in this chain of values, which could be filled by Tunisia to promote Japanese investment in North Africa and sub-Saharan countries. To achieve that, we are readying ourselves to be able to welcome Japanese investments as best as we can, and it is up to us to improve Tunisian business environment the way our government is currently committed to accomplish that in a short notice. As any dream, it only needs us to believe in it and hard working to make it come true. Thank you so much for your attention. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Dr. Hedi Ben Abbas. Thank you for your words, your thoughts, and your message. Next, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Akihiko Tanaka, President of Japan International Cooperation Agency. Dr. Tanaka, welcome.
Distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, first of all, congratulate the organizers, JETRO, and the governments of Japan and Tunisia on convening this important event. Africa and the world are facing multiple compound crises, including climate change, the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and issues of debt sustainability. Individually, each of these crises is a serious concern, but combined, they pose an unprecedented challenge. Africa, with the support of the international community, must weather these crises, but also build back better and strengthen resilience to future shocks. The Business Forum is an opportunity for us to focus on how the private sector can and must be part of that effort. I believe here youth and innovation are key. Africa has a growing youthful population, and a number of African startups, young entrepreneurs, are applying innovative approaches and digital technologies to tackle social issues. They are cause for optimism. JICA has been implementing numerous projects to maximize potentials of African private sector with focus on youth, startups, and innovation. Let me give you 3 examples. First, the African Business Education Initiative for Youth, in short, ABE Initiative or Abe Initiative. As the name suggests, the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was the father of this program. It provides African youth with opportunities to study at Japanese universities and intern with Japanese companies. Mr. Abe expected Abe Initiative participants to serve as a driving force for Africa's industrial development, as well as navigators for more Japanese investment and businesses in this continent. Since the launch of the initiative at TICAD8 in 2013, JICA has received more than 1,500 African youth in Japan and connected them with more than 400 Japanese companies. As Mr. Abe hoped, today we have numerous examples of excellent collaboration between Abe graduates and the Japanese private sector, and we expect this to create more opportunities in the future. The second is project we call NINJA, or Next Innovation with Japan, shortened as NINJA. This aims to support young African entrepreneurs and startups to develop innovative business models and to create solutions for social problems. Under the concept of quote-unquote with Japan, NINJA encourages collaboration between African startups and the Japanese private sector. Today, NINJA is extending its activities in Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda. A recent competition resulted in a number of innovative ideas that are being tried in practice. The third example is a new initiative to expand technology-based financial services. About a week ago, JICA signed an investment agreement of $10 million with a private fund that supports fintech startups in Asia and Africa. The aim is to increase access to fair credit and financial services for the underbanked people in Africa. In this time of crisis, we need to focus on Africa's potential. We have to work with the youth, we have to encourage startups, and we have to nurture innovation. To achieve this, today's forum is a good occasion to explore business opportunities and forge alliances that will benefit both Africa and Japan, now and in the future. JICA will support collaboration among businesses of Africa and Japan through investing in people, startups, SMEs, digital and green transformations, among others. TICAD is about solidarity with Africa, based on mutual trust between African countries and the international communities. That extends to the business sector. JICA is committed to work in solidarity with African countries and people, and private sector and international partners toward a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous continent. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dr. Tanaka, thank you so much. And now, Auna Aziakonwa, United Nations Assistant Secretary General, UNDP Assistant Administrator, and Director of the Regional Bureau of Africa. You're welcome, Madam.
Thank you. And let me begin by thanking Dr. Tanaka for emphasizing youth innovation and startups. That indeed is where the magic is. Greetings, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I have the honor and privilege to deliver today on behalf of Mr. Achim Steiner, the administrator of UNDP, a statement of support, a message to this important forum. It is a privilege to address this forum, which is facilitating much needed dialogue between leading private sector from Africa and also from Japan, which is strengthening business ties and driving forward sustainable development. Since TICAD8 in 2019, the global socio-economic outlook has dramatically changed, as we've heard throughout today. In these uncertain times, there is a pressing need for greater engagement by the private sector to drive economic growth, spur digital innovation, and create jobs and livelihoods. Indeed, it is imperative to find new and innovative ways to leverage and align the world's private capital with the Sustainable Development Goals. As part of these efforts, the United Nations Development Programme is working closely with our private sector partners across Africa to accelerate progress on the 2030 Agenda and, of course, on the African Union Agenda 2063. For UNDP, there are two clear areas where support is needed urgently. First, the private sector needs tailored support to identify investment opportunities in order to make an even greater contribution to the global goals. In particular, UNDP's SDG Finance Sector Hub is working quite closely with the private sector to transform their sustainability intentions and also the pledges that they make into action that creates impact. During TICAD8, UNDP is holding a virtual side event to demonstrate SDG entangling investment opportunities for the private sector, especially in the green economy outlined in the SDG investor maps. This represents just one product of UNDP's groundbreaking SDG Impact Initiative. And the SDG investor maps have already pinpointed hundreds of SDG investment opportunities in 15 African countries. And just to name a few, we have Ghana, Rwanda, South Africa, and Uganda. Second, there is a need to leverage the expertise of the private sector to accelerate Africa's digital transformation with a focus on youth. Guided by our digital strategy, UNDP is supporting countries across Africa to accelerate their digital transformation in tandem with the private sector. So let's just take a look at one example. In Ghana, where UNDP is leveraging cutting-edge digital technologies pioneered by Japan's private sector to enhance early detection of preventable diseases. And in collaboration with the private sector, the network of UNDP's accelerator labs across Africa has identified and scaled up innovations in areas such as the circular economy, youth employment, and climate change, many of which are in the digital sphere. Tomorrow, we will launch a partnership with Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO, Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. This partnership seeks to further expand investment by Japanese companies on the continent of Africa. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, if the world is really to drive forward progress on the SDGs and do so while boosting human security, it is clear that the private sector needs to take a much more active and central role. And a new partnership of purpose between Africa's private sector and Japanese private sector has been born. That partnership is underpinned by the core principle of generating shared prosperity that has the power to defeat poverty, to defeat inequality, and to defeat vulnerability. This will help the continent of Africa to prepare more intentionally for a decarbonized and safe digital future, creating new opportunities for all. This is the central tenet of the human development approach. The entire United Nations family remains committed to utilizing its extensive networks and local expertise in Africa and globally to strengthen business, trade, and investment relationships between Africa and Japan. Doing so, ladies and gentlemen, is vital, a very vital part of our co-investment in countries and communities in a greener, future, smart Africa. This morning we heard quotes from great men of the continent. I want to end with a quote by another great man, Mahatma Gandhi. And I quote, "The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed." End of quote. I thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'm delighted to introduce to you Mr. Akinomi Adesina, President of African Development Bank. Dr. Adesina, welcome.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the heads of state that helped to headline this event. Today, the President of the Republic of Tunisia, His Excellency President Said, also the Prime Minister of Japan, the Prime Minister Kishida, and I wish him well to recover from the COVID-19 situation. His Excellency President Macky Sall, President of Senegal and Chair of the African Union. Honorable Ministers, it's good to see you. Honorable Minister Nakatani, and thank you very much for your speech this morning and your support for Africa. Honorable Ministers across Africa, Mr. Sasaki, Chairman and CEO of JETRO, eminent business leaders from Japan and Africa, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish to congratulate the government of Japan and the government of Tunisia on this 8th Tokyo International Conference on African development. I wish to first and foremost commiserate with the government of Japan on the very sad event of the assassination of one of Africa's best friends, the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. He was a great friend of Africa, and he was a man that I loved very much. And under his leadership, TICAD became such a strong platform for forging strong strategic partnerships between Japan and Africa. Shinzo Abe pushed for what he called a free and open Indo-Pacific. Please permit me, if we may rise and play 1 minute silence in honor of late Shinzo Abe. May his soul rest in peace. Please be seated. Japan is a friend of Africa. Over the past 7 years, TICAD has been an excellent platform to discuss on how to bolster Africa's economic development and to build stronger partnerships between Japan and Africa. Holding this summit in Tunis further shows that Japan values partnership on the ground right here in Africa. While official development assistance by Japan has clearly helped a lot in Africa, the move towards more private sector and investment approach offered lots of opportunities. In this regard, there's lots to be done. 2 areas are especially important. First is bilateral trade. Of the $1.5 trillion in global trade by Japan, bilateral trade with Africa was only $23.5 billion, or just 1.5%. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area now offers a much wider set of opportunities to change this. Second is on investments. Foreign direct investments globally by Japan is valued at $2 trillion, of which the total FDI stock in Africa accounts for just 0.03%. Japan's investment stocks in sub-Saharan Africa reached a peak of $12 billion in 2013. However, this declined to $6 billion in 2021. These trends must be reversed, and it certainly can be. Some Japanese companies, such as Toyota Tsusho, are showing the way. Its investments in Africa generated $8.5 billion in revenues in March of 2022, and it was great listening to that from Mr. Karube. Thank you very much for your work in Africa. Komatsu, and I was sitting with both of them actually on the same table, which has business operations in 54 African countries, generated revenue of $1 billion. And thank you very much, Mr. Ohashi, for actually sharing that experience and encouragement with us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Development Bank is working with Japan on expanding private sector investment opportunities in Africa. Our partnership with the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, on the Enhanced Private Sector Assistance for Africa, EPSA, has helped to deliver over $10 billion in financing that supports Africa's private sector. African Development Bank's partnership with Japanese Bank for International Cooperation, JBIC, Mizuho Bank, and 9 other financial institutions provided $2.7 billion to help to build the Nacala Corridor railway and port project in Mozambique. Together with Total and other investors and JBIC, we also co-financed $24 billion liquefied natural gas project for Mozambique, making it the third largest exporter of liquefied natural gas globally, with Japan accounting for 30% of its market uptake. There are several reasons for Japanese companies and business leaders to focus on Africa. Africa is home to a vibrant fintech ecosystem that is leading the continent's digital revolution, with the highest potential for leapfrog in the world. The continent has today 576 fintech startups, and they are run by young people, very dynamic and very entrepreneurial. Last year, African fintech companies raised almost $1.5 billion. And I was particularly excited listening this afternoon to several Japanese business MOUs that were signed to promote greater investment in the businesses run by young people in Africa. Africa is primed to be the alternative source of supply of natural gas to help to secure energy supplies for Europe, for Japan itself, and the rest of the world. From Nigeria to Ghana, Tanzania, Senegal, Algeria, Kenya, Africa now has some of the largest reserves of natural gas in the world. The future of electric vehicles will depend on the availability of lithium ion. Africa has some of the largest lithium deposits in the world, from Democratic Republic of Congo to Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Mali, enough to make Africa competitive with China and Chile in the race for supplying global value chains for electric cars. Japan can play a huge role in investment in this area, especially given the leadership of Mitsubishi Corporation on lithium ion for mobility and power generation. Africa, ladies and gentlemen, also holds huge opportunities in agriculture, with 65% of the uncultivated arable land left to feed the world not being in Asia, not being in Latin America, not being in Europe or in America, but right here in Africa. And so what Africa does with agriculture will determine the future of food in the world. And the size of that sector of food and ag is going to be worth $1 trillion, a whopping $1 trillion by 2030. Renewable energy investment opportunities are immense, including solar, hydro, wind, and geothermal. The investment by Japanese companies in geothermal energy plant in Kenya called Olkaria is a very good example of what Japan can do on renewable energy in Africa. From Democratic Republic of Congo, Morocco, Namibia, Botswana, huge opportunities exist for green hydrogen, the fuel of the future. The African Development Bank today is mobilizing $20 billion for developing what we call desert-to-power in the Sahel, which will power the economies of 11 countries with solar and become the world's largest solar zone. I would like to use this opportunity to call for a renewal of the Japan-Africa Energy Partnership, signed on July 3, 2017, between the African Development Bank and the government of Japan, this time with a focus on renewable energy and gas. Japanese investors should be more excited about Africa. The evidence speaks for itself, but let me amplify some of the key facts. The number of private equity funds in Africa grew from only 12 in 1997 to 150 by 2020. Africa is safe and profitable as an investment destination. In a 2020 survey conducted by the African Private Equity and Venture Capital Association, about 45% of the limited partners expect returns in Africa to outperform those of emerging markets and developed markets over the next 10 years. And 60% of the limited partners plan to increase allocations to Africa in the next 3 years. TICAD, therefore, can help in a long way in tilting more Japanese private sector investments into Africa. It is time, I believe, for Japan to refresh, to re-engage, and to reinvest in Africa. But as you do, let me say it's important to base your investment decisions on Africa on facts, not on perceptions. Perception is not reality. Think of the following. In 2020, Moody Analytics performed a 20-year cumulative assessment of global infrastructure debt default rates by region. It found that infrastructure loans perform worse in Eastern Europe, Latin America, Oceania. Africa was the region with the second lowest cumulative default rate after the Middle East. That's proof once again that infrastructure as an asset class in Africa is solid, secure, and profitable. And that is why the African Development Bank invested over $44 billion in infrastructure in Africa in the past 6 years, from energy to transport, digital infrastructure, water, and sanitation. And we are the largest investor in infrastructure in Africa among all multilateral financial institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, the Africa Investment Forum, organized annually by the African Development Bank and its partners, is showing the way for investors into Africa, curating deals and closing deals. In the past 3 years, the forum has helped to attract $110 billion of investment interest into Africa. The next forum will be held in Abidjan this year, from the 2nd to the 4th of November 2020. I'll be delighted to welcome you all there. I am excited that the Japan-Africa Business Forum, organized jointly with the African Development Bank, attracted over 3,800 participants. I am excited about opportunities to work together with Kaiser Doyukai on Africa's investment fund that they put together to support Japanese business interests and investments in Africa. And thank you very much, Mr. Mutsu Iwai. I am excited about opportunities to work together with Kaidan on improving business investment environment for attracting more private investments from Japan into Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Toyota Shusho moved to Africa. It is prospering. Komatsu moved to Africa. It is prospering. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries moved to Africa. It is prospering. several other Japanese businesses are prospering in Africa. And I fully expect that the business venture memorandum of understanding signed today between several businesses from Japan and private equity funds for Africa will equally prosper. Together, let's scale up Japanese private sector investments in Africa. Let us turn conversations into commitments. Let us turn commitments into investments. Let us work together. Ishoni, Gambari, Marshall. Let us prosper together. Domo arigato. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adesina. For our final speaker, I'm delighted to introduce to you Mr. Hiroshi Matanu, Executive Vice President of Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. Mr. Matanu, welcome.
Excellencies, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of the World Bank Group, please let me thank the government of Tunisia for hosting the TICAD8, and your excellencies, President Said and President Sall and Prime Minister Kishida for providing a very insightful comments, guidance, and advice. As my president, David Malpass, World Bank Group president, has mentioned at today's morning's session, the World Bank, together with its private sector investment arm, IFC and MIGA, has been very active for the past 2.5 years in order to address the COVID crisis that we have been experiencing over the past few years. Moreover, we have announced in April of this year a surge target to commit $140 billion for in the next 18 months. So to help the world overcome not only the pandemic, but the war in Ukraine, the food energy crisis, and obviously the long-term climate change challenges that we are now seeing throughout the world. During our internal deliberations about our strategy and through our dialogue with our stakeholders and the wider development community, we have become more convinced than ever of the importance of the private sector for development and the role that the World Bank, IFC, MIGA can play to help the private sector to grow and prosper. In short, what I want to say and convey the message is that IFC and MIGA are committed to supporting the private sector on this wonderful African continent. We look forward to deepening our dialogue and also to have a fruitful discussion about the right strategy. Thank you, and thank you again.
Thank you so much. We now move to our next and final session, messages from Japanese business leaders. In this session, we will hear from representatives of Japanese companies that are already well established in Africa and have created successful businesses with African partners. They will describe some of their business initiatives and talk about opportunities in the African market. To kick things off, I'm delighted to introduce Mr. Yoichi Miyamoto, Chairman of the Board and Representative Director of Shimizu Corporation and President of Japan of Africa Infrastructure Development Association. Mr. Miyamoto, welcome.
こんばんは、皆さんこんばんは。すいません、私は日本語でやらせていただきます。清水建設の会長の宮本でございます。アフリカインフラ協議会、通称 JIDA の会長も務めています。
Yes, Shimizu Corporation's first project in Africa was in Zambia in the late 1960s. Since then, in 15 African countries, through construction of roads, bridges, schools, medical facilities, and the meteorological radar, we worked on diverse infrastructure development. At present, in Ghana, Uganda, and Djibouti, we are building roads and schools. With our involvement in basic infrastructure improvement in those countries for many years, we take pride in our modest contribution to Africa's leap forward. So please allow me to share my observation on 3 aspects of African future. The first aspect is Africa's unique style of growth. Innovation is taking place in various areas, and there is active investment in startups. This is the so-called leapfrogging, unprecedented, unique phenomena of growth, and Japanese companies are watching this trend closely. In Africa, looking at its future population increase and economic growth across the continent, innovation-based new technologies and services can prime the development. But it is important that agriculture and other traditional industries in general are not left behind. To transmit the energy of startup growth to the overall growth, we should not forget to support the underlying infrastructure. The second aspect is our expectations for the AfCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area, which started trade in January last year. Building a seamless cross-border economic zone should activate till now limited infra-African trade, with anticipation that this will expand sustainable African continental economy and society smoothly. We keep our eyes on this development. The third aspect is the trend of rapid urbanization driven by population increase. While cities with concentration of people, goods, and financial resources offer significant advantages for economic growth, the number of measures cities have to implement, such as resolution of traffic congestions, securing of housing, renewal of urban capital, prevention and mitigation of floods, tidal waves, and other disasters, and actions against pandemics like the current one should get continuously bigger. For that, planned urban development and appropriate capital investment will be indispensable, and we need to act now. Commonality of those 3 aspects I've just mentioned is that they require diverse infrastructure. Industry expansion through innovation and regional integration, and trade stimulation through the AfCFTA has to have electricity, water, communications, and means of transport for people and goods, namely basic infrastructure. As I said at the beginning, I am also the chairman of JIDA. Based on the outcomes of TICAD8 held in Nairobi, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism and the private sectors funded the organization. Currently, 189 companies across different industries are participating in JIDA. As an effort to promote deep understanding of Japan's intended high-quality infrastructure, JIDA visited 12 African countries 14 times in total and held public-private quality infrastructure conferences or infrastructure dialogue. In the last 2 years, we had online meetings with 6 countries. In my direct contact and discussions with African companies and governments, I feel firsthand their anticipation of high-quality infrastructure development. They, of course, anticipate attention for life cycle costs, advanced technology, environment, disaster prevention, and health. At the same time, they anticipate local transfer of technology, know-hows, mindset, and attitude towards quality and kaizen through project for capacity building. In other words, they anticipate human resource development in the spirit of Made with Japan. Yesterday, the Tunisian Ministry of Public Works and Housing, the Japanese Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, JIDA, and representatives of African governments and companies met together and discussed about infrastructure investment for Africa's long-term prosperity. Despite the limited number of participants, Japanese and African public and private sectors were able to share once again their views about quality infrastructure and engage in a lively exchange of opinions. We at JIDA respects TICAD's basic principles of African ownership and international partnership, and through relationships of trust with you in Japan and Africa, in public and private, we would like to contribute so that the African can further fulfill its potential. We are committed to contribute to the further realization of Africa's potential. Thank you very much.
Mr. Miyamoto, thank you so much. Next, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Masayuki Yodo, Representative Director, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Sumitomo Corporation. Mr. Yodo.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hyodo. I'm CEO of Sumitomo Corporation. It's a great honor for this opportunity to present our activities in Africa this time. As shown on the first page, as a subtitle, Enriching Lives and the World. This is a corporate message we, Sumitomo Corporation, announced at the 100th year anniversary back in 3 years ago. This is what we have done, and this is what we would like to do in coming 100 years in Africa. I would like to briefly touch upon what we have been doing and what we will be doing. We opened our office back in 1954, starting from Cairo, Egypt. And since then, we expanded our business activities in 11 countries so far. Our major initiatives in Africa, starting with the area of mineral resources. First, we started exporting iron ore, manganese ore, and ferroalloys from South Africa to Japan. Now, we have begun Ambatobi project in Madagascar. A world-class nickel and cobalt production in Madagascar is in operation now. It involves not only mining, but also refining them locally in briquettes, first-class quality for the fast-growing electric vehicle market, which amounts to more than 20% of the country's total exports. Directly and indirectly, we are employing around 10,000 people in the country while pursuing human resources development as well. We hope to continue growing it as a project integrated into the local community. Here, we touch upon a small example of some infrastructure-related projects we conducted. In the power sector, we recently completed and commenced the operation of Rades Sea project in Tunisia, financed by JICA, as well as a gas-fired power station in Ghana, and also an onshore wind farm in South Africa called DOPA. Actually, this is the first class and most well-performing wind farm in our portfolio. As our latest endeavor, we joined with Vodafone Group and British International Investment and established Safaricom Telecommunications Ethiopia PLC in the country. We are preparing to launch our cell phone service this coming autumn. We will be supporting Ethiopia's economic revitalization and national building by creating more than 1.5 million direct and indirect jobs over the next 10 years, and fostering human capital needed for digital society. This time, we conclude the four-party memorandum of cooperation among Safaricom, Ethiopia, Ethiopian Ministry of Innovation and Technology, JICA, and ourselves, which is an initiative to strive, promote Digital Ethiopia 2025. Telecommunications is a powerful digital platform that can contribute to solving society and social issues and transforming the lives of the people through innovation in financial services, but not only financial services, but also agriculture, healthcare, education, and so on. We'll be creating new business models that meet people's everyday needs and real-world challenges, and integrating the real and cyberspace. We hope to contribute, resolve the social issues in Africa by stepping up the initiatives introduced today in the areas of mineral resources, infrastructure, telecommunications, and others. On behalf of Sumitomo Corporation, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to each country, authority, and public institutions such as JICA and private companies operating in Africa for partnering with us. We intend to continue enriching Africa's societies and the people's lives over the next 100 years through our business activities. Thank you very much for kind listening.
Thank you, Mr. Yodo. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Yoji Okumura, Representative Director, President of Fugitive Corporation. Mr. Okumura, welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Hiroshi Okumura and I am the President and CEO of Fugitive Corporation. I would like to talk to you today about Fujitive's business in Africa. Fugitive is part of the Daiwa House Group, which is the largest housing company in Japan. And we're a construction company with a history spanning more than 100 years. We aim to be a company that is alert to change, that hones and refines its strength, and a company that can contribute to the earth and its future. Fujitive's major projects in Africa are the Mombasa Road construction project in the Republic of Kenya and the TICAD training center project in Ethiopia. Through these projects, we are striving to further strengthen our relationship with African countries and to realize high-quality infrastructure development. I will now explain about the current status of the Mombasa Road construction project under construction by showing you a video. This project is for the construction of a new road at Mombasa Port, a logistics hub in East Africa. You're supposed to see a photograph here. Yes, here it is. The upper image shows how it was prior to the construction. The lower image shows how it was at the end of July. We are monitoring the construction progress every month with a very effective use of drone photography. In the next slide, I would like to give you a glimpse into Fujitive's digital transformation. This is an unmanned AI robot that can be mounted onto various models by different manufacturers. We're working to make it possible for the robot to work automatically with multiple units of construction machinery in the future. And here is a four-legged walking robot, especially to meet the needs on construction sites. And finally, the technology allows the user to move freely and with ease around the BIM world using a game controller. Fugitive continues to move forward in researching and conducting studies on the feasibility of future projects in Africa. Some of the examples underway are agricultural storage facilities and data centers, facilities using freezing and refrigeration technology, housing development projects, and the future city concept, bridging many different levels of specialization. Here, I would like to show you how Fugitive envisages a city of the future. Our vision of the city in the future that is safe, secure, and people-friendly, where people feel looked after. You can see that the smart city of the future is colored with nature's lush greens. We propose the smart city of the future that benefits from wide scope of technologies, from disaster prevention to energy and the environment. And finally, may I express my deep appreciation for this wonderful opportunity to speak to you all at TICAD8. I would like to end by assuring you that Fugitive will spare no efforts on its path to develop high-quality infrastructure in Africa. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Okumura, thank you so much. For our next speaker, I'm delighted to introduce to you Mr. Masumi Kakinoki, President and CEO of Marubeni Corporation. Mr. Kakinoki, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Masumi Kakinoki, President of Marubeni Corporation, and it is a great honor for me to have this opportunity to address you today at this TICAD8 Business Forum. Marubeni is founded in 1858 as one of the Japanese Sogo Shosha general trading and investment conglomerate with a history of more than 160 years. Marubeni opened its first office on the African continent in Cairo in 1955. And in the 67 years since then, we have been contributing to the development of Africa through our various business activities. I myself was stationed in Cairo for 4 years from 1987 to 1991. Picture is young Kakinoki, I myself, where I was engaged in the construction of power plant and other rewarding business activities. My first large investment experience is IPP, Independent Power Producer Projects, in Tunisia at Rades. We constructed power plants and start operation 2002 May. And this May 2022, we have completed our on-land operation contract with Tunisian authority without any trouble. And during these 20 years, we generated and supplied electricity as planned and as promised to the Tunisian authority. And the Tunisian authority has been paying to us without any delay at all. So this proved that trust in each party is a key success. Successful operation can be achieved with our very tight, trust each other. The most attractive point about Africa is the size and aging composition of its population. While Japan struggles with a declining birth rate and shrinking and aging population, Africa will act more and more attention as a consumer market in the future. In addition, under the current global circumstances, where economic security and the diversification of supply chains are required, Africa's high potential will be reaffirmed. However, as stated in the TICAD8 agenda, Africa also faces many social challenges, such as severe poverty, vulnerability to natural disasters, and domestic and overseas conflicts. Above all, we feel that due to the physical distance from Japan, there is a strong tendency to prefer to do the business in neighboring countries in Asia. This tendency should be changed and is changing. I am currently encouraging our executives to go on business trip to Africa and look, listen, and feel Africa by themselves. I believe that once they visit Africa, their way of thinking will definitely change. Africa is changing with much higher speed than we imagined. And we found that there are great business opportunities in the IT, medical, and green sectors in the future. As to green sector in particular, our current midterm management plan calls for us to be a forerunner in the green sector by strengthening our green business and promoting the greening of all our businesses. In Africa, through such companies as Washa and Azuri, we have been providing electricity services using renewable energy to people in areas that have been without electrification, namely electric grid connection. We charged electric lantern, as you see, with the solar energy during the daytime, and lent discharged lantern during nighttime, and create new additional time for the people by lighting in the dark night. Parents can work, and children can read and study at nighttime. So in other regions, we are also engaged in green-related businesses, including one of the world's largest solar power generation projects, of which size equals to 1 unit of large nuclear generating unit, as shown on the left down side. And not to mention afforestation, tree planting projects. We can cover not only the small scale, but also large-scale projects in every field. We'd like to contribute to solving such social issues as power and water shortages, waste problems, and the deforestation facing Africa. That concludes my remarks. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And now, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Yuzuki Saraya, President of Saraya Co. Mr. Saraya, welcome.
Thank you very much. And 2 more speakers. Thank you for your patience. And let me talk about our business in Africa. Here? I would like to inform that our approach is rather a multiple approach. And towards SDGs, I'd like to inform that our factory in Tunisia has just inaugurated 3 days ago. I asked a Tunisian, thank you very much, Tunisian constructor, because there has been a Japanese constructor, but I asked the Tunisian contractor in February this year, would you be able to get in time to TICAD to make this factory? They say, okay, I'll try. Then we came into the inauguration. Thank you very much for the construction. And I think Africa has ability to do so. Okay. This is 70 years ago, because 70 years ago, my father started this company because there are lots of diseases like dysentery, like communicable disease. Then the importance is to clean your hands. So this is our start. I'm very proud that after 70 years, we could do some contribution to Africa. Okay. Now we have 30 offices in the world. We have 11 factories. The 11th is the Tunisian factories. But before Tunisia, we have a factory in Uganda, and we will have a factory in Egypt probably in 3 months. So we are concentrating much to Africa. 4 countries now, but I would like to make another more countries that Saraya could get in. This is the inauguration. Your Minister of Gonji and the Ambassador to Tunisia, His Excellency Simiz, came to open. I put Mount Fuji as well as Cap decided kind of cultural elements also 2 countries to be together in this factory. What do we do in this factory? Because I started a little bit easier parts. We make a kind of bottling of olive oil. Olive oil in Asia, Tunisian olive oil, is not very popular yet. Spanish, Italian, very popular, but not the Tunisian ones. So we would like to bottle them and ship them to Asia and Japan, as well as we started, as a matter of fact, I didn't count, but a small distillery in the peninsula, Gabon, to get essential oil. So we make a product using Tunisian essential oil, probably some other African essential oil to make product. So this is our scope. The scope is that we work with the farmers and we work with the local people. In Egypt, I told you that the factory is coming up soon. What do? We plant jojoba trees in the desert. So jojoba trees can grow in the desert. We can have the jojoba meat, and in the meat there are oils, which is very good to the human skin. So we make cosmetics through this jojoba. This project is being done by Osaka University professor, as well as there is E-Just in Egypt, that Japanese ministry helped them to establish a university. So this is another challenge that we work together. This is maternal and child health. In 2010, we started the project in Uganda. Simple. Just clean your hands before you take the child. Just clean your hands before you take to the patient. So then we had, with the support of JICA, we make a kind of experiment. Mr. Saraya, your product is good, but very expensive. Okay, what do we do? I find that they produce alcohol in Uganda by sugarcane molasses. So we use this alcohol to use our product and make hand hygiene. So we promote clean your hands before you touch a baby. So this is a kind of things that we do also. 100 million hands in Uganda for healthcare. So this is a project that then we had made a factory in 2015 to provide inexpensive liquid there. It worked very well during the term of COVID. This is another project, because we said multiple project in Kenya. Kenya, because healthcare, it takes time to get license, to get the change of the habits of the people. Okay, we will do some other approach. We make a kind of rapid freezer by our company. which is a kind of quick freezing, not the big scale, but the smaller scale to the fishermen. They pack it with the rapid freezing. Then I made a kitchen for them to process the fishes or meat or anything by the rapid freezing in the kitchen in Nairobi, that anyone can use it to develop their product. So this is another approach that is now going on. Then finally, this is a good project that we are working as a neglected tropical disease. Because in Uganda or in Kenya or some other countries, they have big problems with the flare. The flare bites your skin because you walk naked, especially children. They lay eggs and they grow under the skin. So sometimes they just cut themselves by knife to cure. We have made a lotion to this disease. This is the third stage. I hope that the license will be given in a few months so that we will make this lotion in our factory in Uganda and we'll export it to outside of Uganda and Kenya. So this is a kind of third country, goes to the places where they have the problems. So this is the final project that I want to introduce to you in Africa. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sarai. Thank you. And finally, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Katsuaki Watanabe, Chairman and Representative Director, Yamaha Motor. Mr. Watanabe, welcome.
Hello, my name is Katsuaki Watanabe from Yamaha Motor. And may I say what a great honor it is for me to be the last speaker here today. And it is also a great honor to be able to introduce our company's initiatives to you at TICAD8. Our company has been involved in Africa for over 50 years, and we are determined that we shall continue to do so over the next 50 years. First of all, let me briefly introduce our company, Yamaha Motor. Since our establishment in 1955, we have been supplying to more than 180 countries and regions around the world a wide range of products, including motorcycles, marine use products, and industrial robots, together with after-sales services. We have 127 affiliated companies around, mainly in the ASEAN region, where we are transferring both our technology and our plants. At the same time, we're working to resolve social issues in wide-ranging ways, including the promotion of safe driving education and sports for young people across a whole variety of regions. I would now like to go on to talk to you about our approach to the African market. To begin with, I need to introduce you to the concept of Yamaha Motor's 4 missions for the African market. The first mission is to know the market well, thus providing our customers with high-quality models that suit their needs and purposes. Secondly, we developed a network of after-sales services in 52 African countries to ensure that our customers can use our products with confidence. And thirdly, we will continue to place great focus and importance on both maintenance and safe driving skills for the safety and security of our customers. And finally, we will transfer our technology and know-how for the development of African industries. This vision of ours, enduring over the last 50 years, has also been a driving force for tackling social issues throughout our business. In the 1960s, we started our outboard motor business in Africa with the help of the Japanese government's fisheries support program, and by enhancing our outboard motor and FRP boat development, we have continued to ensure the safety of fishermen and improving the efficiency of their industry. In the 1980s, we strengthened our motorcycle business, which proved vital for mobility and transport. And most recently, we have been working on solutions for relieving traffic congestion on water transport. Once we entered the 1990s, Yamaha began working on the healthcare sector, supplying motorcycles for the delivery of medicines to rural areas, and developing the Yamaha Clean Water System under the slogan, "Change Water, Change Life," and we installed 30 units in the African regions. In response to crisis management, we also provided a wide range of high-speed patrol boats and escort vehicles that utilize advanced technology. Let me talk to you a little about two of our last one-mile solutions that we're currently working on and strengthening. The first one is about the last 1 mile in healthcare. Transporting medical supplies and staff to rural villages with very poor road conditions is a very difficult challenge in providing proper healthcare. We are contributing to the solution through our high-quality products and after-sales service network. The other one that we will address is the last 1 mile in the field of industrial development. It is essential to improve the means of transport for both people and goods in order for industrial development to actually happen. We do not limit ourselves to just supplying products as a manufacturer, but also work together with startups in order to launch delivery and new motorcycle leasing businesses. We hope that these activities will lead to the expansion of job opportunities for young people. Finally, building on our 50 years' worth of activity field history, we aim to further expand in the African market over the coming 50 years. We are very much committed to working on the ground in Africa with an aim for both businesses and social development hand in hand with our African friends, and at the same time increasing opportunities for education and contributing to African communities through new investments. And for this to happen, I would like to conclude my presentation by asking both African and Japanese governments to work together in developing infrastructure that can help us grow sustainable businesses for the future of Africa. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And this was the last talk for today, ladies and gentlemen, that conclude the TICAD8 Business Forum Day 1. And I hope you have found today's presentations to be interesting and informative. I wish you a pleasant evening and hope to see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you so much.